Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is going to be a presentation for Poway Unified School District. I'm Dr. Farrell. I'm the regional lead in Los Angeles, and we are joined by Dr. Crosby Cooper, who is the regional lead for San Diego. And we have the wonderful lead psychologist from Poway, Dr. Kapasan, and Mr. Bernard Larson, as well as an intern from Poway joining us, McKenna. So with that, I will turn it over to them. They're going to be discussing the fieldwork experience in Poway. If you can, make sure your mics are muted, and questions will be reserved till the end. So avoid typing in the chat, and then once they finish their formal presentation, we'll open up the chat. If you have a microphone, you can also raise your hand. We'll call on you and we'll answer questions towards the end, right? With that, I will turn it over to Dr. Kapasan and Mr. Larson.
Thank you, Dr. Farrell. We are super thankful to be part of your evening. And like Dr. Farrell said, if you have any questions, we'll just hit those at the end. Mr. Larson, are you ready to go?
I am ready.
Okay. Ms. Dooley?
She's sharing her screen, but I don't see it up here.
Oh, you don't see it?
No.
Here, let me stop and redo it. Okay. All right. Now is it good?
We're looking at you now.
She's normally very pleasurable.
Just so everyone knows, this worked like 5 minutes ago. I don't know what happened.
Is the president going to be
There we
in this
go.
meeting?
All right.
Okay.
Right.
Let me.
Is the president going to be in this meeting? Bernard, why are you in a suit and tie? Wow.
Well, sometimes I gotta look nice around here. I got big decisions I gotta make. So.
Okay, this needs to move. All right, here we go. Now you can see it.
Take it away, Miss Janice.
Okay. You got it? Okay, Ms. Dooley, next page.
Okay.
All right. So good evening, everyone. And like Dr. Farrell said, we are Poway Unified School District. My name is Dr. Janice Kapasan, and I was an intern in 1999, and I've been with Poway ever since. Mr. Larson?
My name is Bernard Larson. I am one of the lead psychologists here at Poway Unified School District. I'm also I serve as the psychologist at Bernardo Heights Middle School. And I've been with the district since 2014. Prior to that, I want to say it was like 08, 09, I was an intern. And then I went up to Northern California for a few years and worked in a school district up in Santa Cruz that no one will know the name of. But I do want to say that Janice has a better photo filter than me. I look terrible. Thank you. Thank you, Janice, for cleaning yours up. But...
That's called natural beauty, Mr. Larson. There's no filter use there. Okay. McKenna? So who are we? So Poway Unified School District, we are a national leader in K-12 public education. PUSD is located in the northern part of San Diego County. The district serves over 3,600 students and is the third largest school district in the county. PUSD operates 25 elementary schools. We have 1 elementary and a middle school combination. We have 6 middle schools, 1 continuation high school, 5 comprehensive high schools, and 1 adult school. 26 schools are located in the city of San Diego and 12 are in the city of Poway. We are a single district SELPA. Our special education programs provide the full continuum of services, including general education, specialized academic instruction, and related services. And this is a profile of the typical psychologist for Poway Unified. Mr. Larson, would you like to talk about that awesome salary schedule you were?
Sure. So the first thing to take away from this is that Janice is rich. This Ty's a rental, and when she's doing better than me. No, but we do have 41 psychologists in our employ right now. We have, I want to say it's about 35 or 36 of them are served primarily at site. So they're on campus every day, dealing with school stuff and those kind of things. And then we have about six or seven or so of them are on specialty assignments. So a lot of people often split those assignments so well. We'll talk a little bit about those specialty assignments. I do want to touch on something that Dr. Well, I'll just call you Janice. We've known each other, but that Janice talked about us being a self-contained SELPA. Like, if you don't understand what that is, many smaller school districts couple with their county office of education to provide a full continuum of programs. So when she says we have a full continuum of programs, it means when we have students on the autism spectrum who may be with severe needs, we have our own program for it. We manage and run that. When we have students with emotional disturbance at any age level, we manage those things ourselves. Some other districts may be so small that they can't handle these specialty populations on their own, so they tend to share with one another. They may have a memo of understanding or agreement between one another, like, hey, I'll take your students with autism, you work with my emotionally disturbed by that. So, I mean, I wanted to sell that because, again, if you come into our district, we're going to have a wide range of experiences that you can enjoy. So our work year is generally 193 days, 193 long days. There's not really a 8-hour time limit on those. The starting salaries, I guess it's that. I don't know. I'm not there anymore. And there are 5 steps. You'll look at other school districts. They may start lower than us, but as they go up over time, they tend to catch up with us over time. It'll take you some time to catch up. After your 5th year, the salary freezes for 5 years, and then you start getting bumps at 10, 15, and 20 years. And those tend to be a little bit larger percentiles. The 10-year bump is 2.5%, 15 is 5%, and the 20-year is 7.5%. So they're large increases for longevity and things like that. So if you can click, McKenna. Thank you. So in regards to how the internship works, now we're looking at our process a little bit right now to see if maybe there's ways we can improve it or how we want to go about changing it. We did have a process in the past where we'd have a group of our psychologists volunteer to sit in an interview panel. That still will be a part of the process no matter what we change. You will sit and go through an interview. We're all going to judge you and talk about you behind your back and then make decisions about like what we think, whether or not we want you to come join us and like where you might be a good fit. Now, on top of that, we will ask you things like, where do you prefer to be? When we talk about placement, I have some recommendations for that. I'm going to save that to the end, but I know that you're required to have hours in 2 different settings, right? Whether that be elementary and usually it's elementary for sure, but then some secondary level, either middle school or high school. So keeping that in mind, if you're interested in some of these specialty placements, that they may limit how many hours you're able to accumulate there. And we may need to be flexible how we move you around. But again, that all starts with your initial introduction when you share with us what you're interested in, experiences you're interested in. In the past, we would have our supervisors, the people who are agreeing to take you guys on, consider who they think would be a good fit with them, whether they like your experience or they feel like the personality would be something they would mesh well with. That may be something that becomes a decision we make at a little bit of a higher level. Either way, you will have supervision. You will have somebody responsible for your learning, and the expectation on our end is it's a symbiotic relationship, meaning that you should get something from it, but you also need to put something. You need to put a lot into it, quite frankly. And then in regards to the collaboration part, there's a lot of that goes on with us. In fact, we're creating pods, regional pods for us. We want people to bring support down to the lowest level. And so we're creating what we're calling local management teams. So there'll be psychologists that are in charge of a certain area, a certain group of schools, and you'll be within that group. And then when there's a tough case that comes up or we need to help each other out or assist other people, even if you've picked to work at an elementary school, we may ask you, hey, can you go help out at this high school? Can you go help out at our transition program or one of those other things? And in regards to trainings, Janice, actually, if you can talk a little bit about that, I can mention that we do have an abundance of trainings, ones that we provide internally, ones that we give. And also, I don't know if McKenna's ever done one. Some of our interns put on trainings as well, because sometimes us old dogs don't have time to keep up with the most recent stuff. And some of the things that you guys learn and bring to us are extremely helpful in keeping us fresh in our profession. But Janice, if you can talk a little bit more about the Negley area and some of the other things we've done.
McKenna, can you, next slide? So
Oh, there he is.
so something we are really proud of is our unique there we go. Our unique internship opportunities. So we do monthly trainings that our staff will put on. So it can either be done by a psychologist, a program specialist, or a director. We have professional development, and then we have our district-wide trainings and our county-wide trainings. This year, and so typically we meet every month, but because of COVID, we weren't able to do that. But the beauty of that is we did everything virtual and we recorded all of our trainings. So now everything is on the website, which we'll touch upon at the very end. But all of our trainings are listed on our website. We had Stephen Pfeiffer come this year and he talked about written language. We've had him speak about dyslexia. And then we also met with Dr. Jack Neglieri, who some of you may know is he is the developer of the CAS and the Devereux scales. Miss Dooley, can you flip to the next? And these are some of the topics that we had presented. McKenna, can you speak to kind of what your experience has been like with these monthly trainings?
Yeah, so this has actually been one of my favorite parts of the internship is the monthly trainings. I actually look forward to it every single month. So we started with, going over ERMs. That was our first training, and just going over the different tiers of support that we provide. And then we did go over dyslexia, and we just recently went over the, FBAs and BIPs, and that's something that's been really helpful, especially if you aren't getting a ton of experience with those things. The trainings really help. And it's actually something that is provided in this district, and I haven't really seen in other districts. So I think it's a really, really cool thing that we have available to us. So I think it's, just a really cool thing.
If I can pop in on that. So one of the things in particular that's important to us for our every month, there's a training for interns every single month, either put on by one of us or somebody we pay to come in. And then a lot of the trainings that Janice was talking about with Dr. Pfeiffer, Dr. Neglieri, if you don't recognize those names, it's okay. But both of those people are people who are test creators. They're people who actually created tests that help us, determine whether or not somebody has a reading disorder or dyslexia or something like that. And Dr. Naglier he created an intelligence test, one that he argues is the best one out there, arguably, but certainly one we're considering. And that was partly why we met with him. We have a particular challenge we're looking into in the assessment of African Americans and the difficulty that comes with that. So Dr. Naglier is actually helping us with that a little bit, and he's opened it up to where we can call him at home kind of whenever we want kind of thing, even if we're not paying him, which is nice. Those trainings tend to happen a little more quarterly because they're expensive. We have to pay those guys to come in. So there is an abundance of these kind of things. The other part too is in the beginning of the year, we generally put out a survey of like, where do we need some learning? Like not just you guys as interns, but us as a district, where do we need to improve? Janice and I are new to being this position this year and being the lead psychologist. And that's been a very big part of our agenda, like looking at the parts where we need to be better. I will say all the great things she shared about our district. We have very high test scores and lots of resources. Our foundations are flush with cash. Like we have families that are successful and are able to contribute, and a lot of things like that. And sometimes, unfortunately, I feel like we rest on our laurels a little bit. Like the argument being that whether we were here or not, most of these kids would perform as good as they're performing despite us. But what about the ones who aren't? And that's kind of where our work lies. I mean, doesn't it? Isn't that the people we're looking to help? So Janice and I have made that a big priority this year. So thank you for that, McKenna. Another Naglieri meeting. Okay, we can skip that one. Oh, are you going to play it? Don't play it. Because I did all the talking in this one. Don't play this. I don't remember what I said.
You say nothing. Go ahead, McKenna.
All right, here, go to the next. All right. Sorry about the life vest. They won't turn the heat or the air conditioning on in my office because I'm the only one in the building right now. So,
McKenna, we can't hear you. You've muted it.
That's great. You just go to the next one. It's okay.
Okay, let's try this again.
And I don't think we should, as a profession, interpret tests based upon what people put in a book or in a computer program.
If I can elaborate, Dr. Naglieri is speaking against a model that you're all learning. I just want to, I'll be above board with, he does not believe in the CHC model, and that's okay. That's okay. Just so you guys understand that there really isn't a right or wrong model. Like if you guys were talk therapists, some of you might use, Freud's method. Some of you might use personality theory. So you'll use the theoretical model that your district tells you to use. And predominantly that is a patterns of strengths and weaknesses model, either the one we use through Dr. Dean or the one that's recommended through CHC and Cattell-Horn and somebody else. Get in the last one. All right, I gotta move your pictures. Can't see anything. All right, so I think you guys get a lot of this through the university, so I won't spend a ton of time on this. Like you had to take your CBEST scores and all those other things, but when you apply with us, and on the website, there's places for you to submit this documentation. You do have to have all of these things. And particularly when it comes to your internship portfolio, psychoed report, 2 letters of recommendation, we're looking for that as part of the interview. Remember, we're going to pre-screen some people out. We try to interview as many people as possible. We know how hard it is for you guys out there. We know that in San Diego County, city schools, the 4th largest school district in the country, kind of cut off interns last year. And that was something that left a lot of you out there high and dry. And the university even did a lot of work in the background to try to figure out, like, well, how can we help these people? Like now there's a very limited number of spots. It used to be if you were willing to work for free, anyone would take you. But now things have kind of turned. Like we can be a little more selective in what we take and who we want to work with. Because remember, we are making an investment with you. And not making any promises, but we're always in the background fighting for you guys to be paid, because that's just a sticking point for the two of us. We just don't see the fairness in that. But and it's not something like, oh, I went through it, I want you to go through it. That's not really where I believe. And I don't, with COVID and everything, it's an uphill battle, but it's not a subject that I don't bring up every time I meet with leadership. So it is one of those things that it's on the back burner. No promises out there. Very unlikely this year, but it is something we're striving for. But do have those things prepared. You guys put together your psychoed reports, hopefully in your 671 to 673 classes, but also in your practicum. And I'll talk a little bit about this at the end when I start taking some of your questions. In your practicum experience, you should be ramping up. Like you should be doing some assessment. You should be participating in the finished product to some degree. If you want to click the next one, McKenna. All right. There's one more slide after this. Was this a video? Didn't this one have a video, Janice? No? Okay, we can go to the end one if you want to. I think the next one's the last one. So if you want, and I don't know if we have the link up from somewhere, but we did provide it to the university. I know they have it, they've distributed it. You go to there, fill that out. Now, I know some of you have questions like, well, after I fill it out, aren't I so special that I can just call you and ask you? No, don't do that, because I won't call you back. And it's something we have to kind of control how this information comes in, and there's designated times, throughout the month or the year when we look at these things and when they come in. I actually recognize some of you in here. I think I've had some of you in my classes, but yeah, fill in all your things here, get all of that stuff turned in, and then we will have a better idea when we're going to be holding interviews. Generally, we do for internships, we hold them close to the end of March, early April, sometime mid-April. We haven't quite figured that out yet. But when we do put that information out, we'll also let the university know so that they can put that out for you guys to know, like if we have a deadline, so to speak, in regards to when we're taking applications. Not the best idea to submit it in July when none of us are working. But, again, try to get on top of that. So have those things ready, have your letters of recommendation ready. I'm sure, your professors have told you, ask for those things early. And because they take time for people to write. So get that stuff together. I think that's our last slide. I have some helpful information I want to share with you guys, but I wanted to give you a chance to ask some questions, because if the questions have to do with the things I wanted to share, it'll be a nice segue. We can get right into those things.
McKenna, next slide, please. There you go.
Well, this is the part where I was going to share. So I don't know if anybody wants to give me any feedback. Do you want me to kind of go into like my tips for you, or would you rather ask questions and I'll expound? No one's going to answer. All right, I'll go into my, somebody?
Go for the tips.
All right, I'm going to go for the tips, okay? And I do want, look, I know I still teach for the university. You guys have heard some of these things, But as a professor, I can tell you, even when I have told you these things in the beginning of class, I have found myself repeating them in the middle and at the end of class. So these are important things to take with this and carrying forward. As I mentioned earlier, it's changed a little bit. There's a little more competition. Like, it's not just this, you know, there's a surplus of labor out there, let's say. So remember, well, let me start with this. When you're applying for an internship, you can kind of do the spray and pray method. I get it. You want to make sure you get one, so you apply to as many places as possible. But within those places, you want to try to get a placement or an assignment that's at a district that's similar to the place that you envision yourself working with. So if we're talking lower socioeconomic versus higher socioeconomic, you'd want to get an internship in a place that reflects the kind of place that you're hoping to get a job in. That being said, the same thing applies to what level you work at. So if you're someone who's like, hey, I want to be an elementary person, well, then make sure you're at a school district A that has an elementary program, but also make sure that's the assignment that you list as a priority for you. That's what most of our schools are. We hope that's where most of the kids with disabilities get caught, but you know, we're working on that. Knowing that you have to split with a secondary level, you would do your 350 or 400 hours or whatever it is at a high school or a middle school in a smaller segment of time. Usually the way the splits work in our district is you would do 3 days at your primary assignment and 2 days at a supplemental assignment. So if you want to do elementary, you would do 3 days elementary, 2 days secondary school somewhere, or maybe one of the specialty programs. A big thing that I want you guys to take away from this, because I've had to have these conversations with students in my class, is that you really have to understand from here on out, you're on this just continuous walking and talking interview, like with everybody that you come across, how you present yourself. Not in the way you speak to people or what you ask of people, but also even when you work in the university, how you go about the work, your assignments in the university plays a role. As a professor for national and someone who works at Poway, oftentimes people come to me and talk to me about possible opportunities. And, you know, there have been times when I've had to be very honest with people and say, like, you know, judging what I see in class and the things I've had to talk to you about and the things I've had to work with you on, you know, I'm not really someone, I don't really want to bring you into my district, because I'm interested in taking care of my kids. I want what's best for my kids. And if this is going to be where I have to spend my time managing things with you, you know, it's not something I'm interested in. It's also not something I'm interested in doing to my colleagues. Be professional in your attitude. Be professional in your attire. That matters too. I'm not saying you have to wear a tuxedo to work every day, but you should look like an adult when you arrive to campus. We should be able to see from far away that you're different from the kids. And you know, in your interactions with people, like you're not friends with people. It's not a casual environment. You address people by Mr., Mrs., or their educational title, their positional title. We don't call people principal so-and-so, but you want to defer to the professional approach to people until that relationship changes into something else. And if it does, and there's an allowance for that, fine. But you want to be put forth your best self, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. The other part too, this is something that I try to spend a lot of time on. It's something I certainly do with every single person that wants to intern with me, is set personal goals for yourself. So what do I mean by that? When I first meet interns after the interview process and they're meeting for me the first time, I ask them, what are their goals for this year? You are going to write reports and you're going to test lots of people and you're going to get some counseling for sure. But what I like to hear is, but what populations in particular interest you? What experiences interest you? Do you want to come to the one with the lawyer? Do you want to kind of see how that goes? Do you really want to work with kids with severe handicaps? Is that what interests you? Is that where your passion is? So communicate those things, because in goal setting with your supervisor, they can help explain how they can help you reach them. And if they can't help you reach them, maybe it's not a good fit. This is not a popular suggestion amongst my own colleagues. Sometimes Janice will hear from other people when I bring this up, but I almost want you to interview your supervisor a little bit. Some people feel that projects some sense of entitlement, but I don't necessarily agree with that. Like I said, I believe this is a symbiotic relationship. Like, we have to work together. This should be mutually beneficial to both of us. But when I say interview, be what's the word? I can tell you what upsets people is this mindset that somehow or another that you're ordering food, like, well, I'd like a little of this and a little, try to be, thoughtful in that person's time and what it would entail for them, because it should not be at the sacrifices of keeping the machine moving. Remember, we're very busy. We all have big caseloads, and the machine's always got to keep moving, like despite what our own goals and our own agendas are. But like I said, that conversation in the beginning, if you have that with your supervisor, if you set that up, you set up expectations. And when I say by set up expectations, like if you're not getting that goal work that you set forth for yourself and your supervisor agreed to, then by all means, you can reach out. You can sit down with your supervisor and say, hey, like, I'm not getting the things you want. The other thing I want to point out, because this happens as well, if there is a problem with you and your supervisor, we expect that you try to work it out with them. You're adults, we do. We expect that to be the first way that you go about trying to solve that problem or that difference or whatever's occurring. But Janice and I are available for conversations and help with that. But keep in mind, it's us helping with that. We don't make decisions for site supervisors. If they're agreeing to supervise you, they do have the final say whether you stay or not. Unfortunately, it has happened. We have had 1 or 2 conversations this year about people who may need to move for various reasons, or someone who I needed to find different supervision for. And actually, in that person's case, I would say it wasn't really their fault. It was more so an objection I had with their supervisor that I just couldn't get through. But Janice and I are here for that. You will have our support for that kind of thing. The other part too is, especially in the beginning, be helpful. Be helpful. What do I mean by that? Practicum students in particular, they come in with very little knowledge at first, and they kind of just follow us around like little ducks. But there are times, like if you see an opportunity to put something away or go copy something or get something filed, like those little things, not big part of your responsibilities, but it's helpful. If you can do those things, you can help your supervisor free up some time to spend with you and your learning. The other thing I recommend, because I've learned a lot. So before I got into this profession, I put myself through college working in finance. I was a credit analyst for Washington Mutual before they destroyed the economy. And one of the things that I did at work was I always listened to the other people around me talk about problems, talk about solutions, talk about conflict, the things that were going on in our work. And I found that I learned a tremendous amount that way. What you're going to find in your career is that in short and layman's terms, it's a little dismissive, and I don't mean it this way, but it's that idea of like, same problem, different kid. I mean, that you're working with children, like the problems that children experience tend to repeat themselves. The only difference are the characters and maybe some unique particular things about their situation. People, as we're human, we tend to process grief the same way. We tend to experience personal failure the same way. So, you're going to see a lot of those things. Work on learning how to explain those things. I have what I call my own verbal toolbox, how I tend to respond to things. If you watch your supervisor, you'll hear those things. And it'll give you that quick answer. And I can say too, if you're able to answer, you have to answer them correctly, but if you're able to also answer information give information quickly, it does increase your credibility. You do come across more credible that way, and it'll play a very large role in you getting past that newbie stage in your career, whether you're an intern or you're starting out. When I can talk to you guys a little bit about what it's like when you first start out in the profession. I think the number one thing we all hear is, I have been a teacher for X amount of years. That you always get that, right? So you want to leave your internship with a strong foundation of knowledge, because you're going to have to overcome those objections in your work with children. Attendance. I can't stress that enough. Probably the number one complaint that we have to deal with sometimes is the amount of times that people call in sick. The one thing I want to make clear about this job is that there's no subs. There are subs if you're out a long time. Like if you got hit by a bus long time, we'll get somebody to cover for you. But if you're out a day or two, you're just going to come back to an extra 2 days of work just waiting there for you. So be mindful of that. And remember, you being out, you could leave your supervisor in a lurch, and that's not gonna help your relationship. In regards, I'm going to talk a little bit, I want to open this up for questions very shortly, but a couple of things that I want to talk about that have occurred this year and the things that I maybe have been privy to in my new position with Janice being the lead psych is that we have had someone who had passed the interview. She was our gal. We were going to pick her. We were checking references and our director checked her social media profile and then called us back and let us know, never mind, we're not going to be bringing that person aboard. I know you're all human beings and you're all private citizens, but you are going into a field where people are entrusting you with their most valuable asset, their most important asset. They want to know that you're good people, that you're trustworthy. So be mindful of your social media footprint, okay? And then in saying that too, be mindful of your who you are as a person. Be mindful of your membership in society. You know, we already know that criminal convictions can certainly eliminate you from this position, but you know, so can just immoral behavior. So be mindful of that. You know, those trips to Mexico, don't put them on your social media post. There are, you know, our kids look at those things. Our kids, you know, they search, by the way, they look, especially after dealing with you, if they have any affinity toward you, or if they don't like you, they're going to go on social media. They're going to look for things about you. Be mindful of those things. The other thing, I know we live in what people here think is a pretty big city, 1.3 million people in the county. We had another incident where we were really close to hiring somebody, and we were wondering why she didn't put a reference down from a particular school district. So we just picked up the phone. I called the people I know. Janice called the people she knew. Our director called the people she knew. And then we were not able to move that person forth in hiring her. So just know word travels. Word travels. You will learn this. We're a small group. I would argue there's definitely less than 1,000 of us in San Diego. Out of 3 million people in the county, there are less than 1,000 of us. Even if I don't know you, we all suffer the same. So there's a certain camaraderie amongst us, and we're going to look out for each other. And if you blow it up somewhere, yeah, chances are I can find out whether you put that person's name down or not. I can find out, and so can someone else. And that's not meant to scare you. I'm just trying to prepare you guys. Like, you know, moving forth, again, remember, you're a public official at this point. Just in case nobody understands, if you have a credential in the state of California, if you're arrested, before the superintendent gets to work the next morning, she's going to have an email in her inbox letting her know that you were arrested, regardless of what the disposition is going to be. So if you get a DUI, yeah, you're going to be asked to explain that very quickly. And that is because, like I said, we're working in the public's trust, and people are counting on us to take care of their most precious asset. So with that, I want to open up questions, comments. Anybody might have anything that we can maybe offer up that would be helpful. And I guess we would just chime in is fine.
Hi, my name is Rachel. Nice to meet you guys. Thanks for the presentation.